We all want to feel peace in our lives, peace in our choices, our beliefs, our relationships, and our environment. I've learned that this desired contentment is often found through holding on to less. When we pare down what we own, what we consume, and what we value, we're left with what's intentional, a personalized curation of what is important and true and useful to us. I'm Shannon Leyko, and you're listening to Paring Down, a podcast aimed at helping you declutter not only your home, but any area of your life that's overwhelming. Here, we're having interesting and honest conversations about the physical and mental clutter that drowns out what truly matters to each of us. And together, we'll learn how to pare it all down, not for the sake of perfection or becoming rigid, rather so we can move through life with less overwhelm and more joy, wisdom, and peace. Hi, everyone. This episode is going to be one that I know all of us need and want to hear, especially as we head into the holiday season. Today is officially October 31st. If you're listening to this the day that it is released, it is Halloween Day, which means that tomorrow is Christmas, right? The way that our world works. Poor Thanksgiving. But, a lot of us want to get ahead of the Christmas rush because it is a lot. Just the gifting and the traditions and the events and all of the things to think about. So today we are going to talk about making Christmas less overwhelming. I am thrilled to bring on today Karla Graves. Karla is someone that I actually met about 5 years ago when I was working in unscripted television, which is reality TV. And my studio was developing a brand new show concept around her specialty in small space design. And ever since then, I have just thought she's the best. She's gone on to star in the HGTV special Beach Cabana Royale. And Karla's interior design company is called Rocca Home Design, based in Birmingham, Alabama. It's an interior design company that specializes in small space design, residential design, and short-term rental renovations. Karla's focus on the smart use of space, combined with her skills with textiles and art, allows her to create one-of-a-kind spaces that are as functional as they are beautiful. Her unconventional approach into living your best life with less inspires her to create out-of-the-box, bespoke spaces that maximize the space and the function of any room. So as you can see, she's pretty darn perfect to come on and talk about what it's like to do Christmas with less and how to make small spaces feel really fun instead of cramped. So those are two things we're going to cover today, mostly the Christmas stuff. So let's jump on in. P.S. Just a little warning about this episode. We will be discussing Santa. So if you listen with little ears around, I wanted to make note of that to ensure that the holidays remain as magical as they deserve. Karla, what a treat to have you on. You've always been someone that I admire so deeply. So thank you so much for being here.
Oh, you're welcome. It's my pleasure. I'm so happy you asked me.
Yay. Okay, well, obviously I know you, but can you tell all the listeners who you are and what you do?
Yes. So I'm Karla Graves. I'm an interior designer out of Birmingham, Alabama. And I specialize specifically in small space design and vacation rental renovations, which in their nature have a lot of small space design aspects to it, because when you travel and you want to rent a house, you want to cram as many people as you can in one place. So I just kind of help clients to see space differently and see what's the best way to, make the most of it.
Yes, absolutely. So how did you get into specializing in small spaces?
Yeah, so that was actually a little bit accidental. It wasn't on purpose. We had moved our family from Charleston. We were living in Charleston to Alabama. And in the transition period, we had not sold our house in Charleston yet. So needed a place to live. But while that was being, on sale in the market, and just decided to rent a little apartment in the meantime. And at the time I had a 1.5-year-old and a 5-year-old. I only had 2 babies. And I always call them my babies. Right now my oldest baby is 16, but I always say babies. So I had 2 babies, and we were living in this apartment just as a in between. And I started finding that my everyday just changed. My time, I had more time. It was It was easy. All my kids are 4 years apart. So it feels like I've always had a baby and I've always had a toddler. And for all the mamas out there, you know that when you have littles, you just have to be watching them all the time. You kind of don't really have a lot of time to yourself to just be in a place. You have to just always be attentive. So our old house in Charleston was a 2-story home, and all the bedrooms were upstairs. There's stairs, baby gates. There, like, we had to put the baby gates. The playroom was on the other side of the house. And in this apartment that was 700 square feet, only 2 bedrooms, so the boys were sharing one room, I just realized that it was so easy to keep up with them. I knew where they were at all times. I could hear them. I could be in the kitchen. I could be in the living room. Um, I just felt less stressed. I had less anxiety as a mom, and I could clean the whole place in 30 minutes, which just gave me so much more time. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is what I want. What have we been doing, thinking that we need to get the big house with all the rooms and everything? It's almost like at that point I realized that we had kind of fallen into this like societal expectation of just purchasing the large home from the get-go with all the rooms, with all the things, and without even kind of thinking like, what is it that I want or what we want? And I, from that point on, I was set that whenever that house sold in Charleston, we were going to get a 700 square foot. I wanted the same thing. 700 square foot home, which they don't make. Um, so, um, so went to, started kind of shopping around and went to a little community that I loved, and just talked to the builder and said, I want your smallest floor plan that you can, that you offer. And from there on, it really was just experiencing the lifestyle as a mom. At that time, I actually wasn't a working mom. I wasn't doing interior design or anything. I was just a full-time stay-at-home mom. And that's kind of how it started. It was this accidental step into it of realizing the change of my everyday.
Oh my gosh, I can just relate so deeply to that because our first home was also, it wasn't huge, it was 1,800 square feet when we had our first baby. And then we were moving to Alaska. So looking for that second place we'd be living once we'd started our family. And I felt the same way. I was like, I don't want stairs anymore because it's just a pain in so many different ways when it comes to kids. And
Yes.
like you said, I want a space that is small enough where I know where they are at all times. I was pregnant at the time with my second. And so same thing, we downsized. We moved to Alaska for a couple of reasons. A, it's Alaska. There's like not that many housing options. But that was also like a blessing in disguise because we didn't have the kind of bigger options, you know?
Yeah.
And I was so deeply content. And we went from a family of 3 to a family of 5 in Alaska. We had 2 kiddos while we were out there. And in a 3-bedroom, 1,400 square foot home. And I was like, I never want anything bigger than this. And anyway, I won't get too much into our whole story of why we do live in a bigger home now. It is a ranch still, but never again will I make the mistake of being like, oh, okay, we're going to do this because it's the right neighborhood or whatever. And I didn't really put that much thought into how much bigger the house is. I was like, it's a ranch, it'll be fine. And I am like, no, I miss our 1,400 square feet so bad. So
It's
I
not
love
funny.
that. Yeah, it's so true. Okay. And you talked a little bit about how your family and how you felt being in a smaller home with kids. I'd love to hear just a little bit more about that before we dive into Christmas. Can you tell us how many kids you have and what their ages are and the size of your house currently?
So my kids, I have 4. So I have 3 boys and a girl. And my oldest is 16. Then I have a 12-year-old. Then I have an 8-year-old, and then baby girl is 5. And yeah, so we went from, let's see, the Charleston home was the second home, and it just kind of with each purchase just kept getting bigger. And then went to the 700 square foot home and landed on a 1,200 square foot 3-bedroom home. Lived there for almost 10 years, had my boys, all my boys shared one room, and they actually loved it. If we got my teenager over here, he's in school right now, but he would tell you he really did enjoy sharing a room with them. And then I ended up turning our master closet into a tiny little nursery for baby girl. And I really had like a 3-year plan. I figured when I'm pregnant, I can get away with it. And of course, because she wasn't there. And then really like 2 years in the crib. And, but at that point I was like, okay, once she gets to be 3, she's going to need her own room. So we've had to make some changes, but have definitely lived the lifestyle for a long time and love it.
Yes. Oh, wait. So the year or the 10-year house, I remember seeing pictures of your 3 boys in their room and their bed was like a climbing wall. Is that the house you're talking about?
Yes. Yes,
Oh
that's
my
the
gosh.
house. Yeah, that's the house that we went from. That was the house that we went from the apartment to that house, and it was just triple bunk bed, little cubbies. Each kid kind of had their own little private space. There was climbing wall, um, climbing gear. It was just fun. It was a fun space, which you have to do with small spaces because you have to reinvent them for them to be fun. That's kind of the whole point, which I'm sure we'll get to.
Yeah, actually, let's get to it right now. How do you make small spaces not feel cramped and sad? How do you, because you are so good at that, you make it seem like this amazing place. And I think that is such a skill. So, what do you look for and how do you create these awesome small spaces?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, so it's interesting because there's something I don't know. I like a challenge. My personality is kind of like that, but there's something I feel like, especially when I've worked with clients, there's a difference in working in giant spaces than in working in really small spaces. In really small spaces, you have to use your imagination. You have to be highly creative, and I just kind of think a lot of times in life, we're not dealt the best circumstances and the best things, but we have a choice what we make out of it. So I feel like I walk into a small space and that's where the magic happens, because if we're going to be in a situation that typically is not seen, as normal or great, how about we shift our perspective and turn the closet into, a dollhouse bunk bed with hidden ways to get inside. And I don't know, I feel like with small spaces, as long as you change the perspective of it and make it fun, um, the space itself, you don't even think about it. And I kind of feel like that was the case in our room. And so a few things that I love to do in small spaces is that I love to utilize wall space. I think that when we walk into rooms and houses, all we think about is the square footage that the floor has, but we forget about the square footage that goes up to the like floor to ceiling, and we forget about wall space. And there's so many things. I mean, for example, like in the boys' room, I did the triple bunk bed that went all the way up because there wasn't, if I tried to fit 3 beds on the floor, they wouldn't have had any space to do much of anything and it would have felt cramped. So design that in a way that really it only occupied the space of 1 bed because we were going up, and then it opened up the entire space as a play area. And I thought, well, let's make it super fun, and each little bunk bed have its own kind of world. So each of my boys, of course, all of our kids are different. So I have one reader, he wanted books all over. The other one's like Lego man. So little utilizing the wall space inside of the bunk bed for little Lego shelves and wall Lego building blocks. And then my youngest, all about cars, and Walmart has these little sets of tiny little cars that you can just do all these tracks. So there's a lot of ways that if you just look at the space differently, you can maximize it. So that's what I like to do.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. And there's a couple different things I'm hearing there. Like you can create little stations is essentially what you did in each kid's bunk, and to
Yes.
station it out instead of feeling like the whole room has to be dedicated to one theme or one type of, I don't know, experience. I think that's so
Yes.
cool. And then the other thing that really, oh, I'm losing my train of thought. Gosh, it's such the mom brain. I'm like, what was I about to
Oh, you're
say?
good.
Um, is that Well, actually, I don't even know where I'm going anymore. But I do think that that is so unique that, oh, I know what I was going to say. The intentionality behind small spaces is exactly what excites me as well. Like, you can't just have it all. You have to figure out what you need and what you like, because anything else,
Yes.
it's just not going to work, right? And so, even in our playroom, we have to think through what toys do they actually use? What do we really like? And we created it to be really fun. So I have this whole jungle wallpaper and everything is jungle themed. And it's like a really fun spot for them to be in instead of this big, giant open playroom that would probably overwhelm them anyway, you know?
Yes.
And so I love that. And with any creativity, I do think that setting boundaries is such a great way to let that creativity thrive. For instance, you know, as a writer, I always write my best work when somebody gives me a very specific prompt, or instead of saying, "Hey, just write something." Oh, I don't know what you want me to say. Or you
Yeah.
know, have you ever watched Project Runway?
Yeah.
Okay, so like in Project Runway, when they give these challenges, right, and they're like, you have to use these materials or it has to do X, Y, and Z, these people come up with the coolest things. But then at the very end, if they say, okay, now you get to make whatever you want, most of the time the people, they flounder a little bit because we just, as human beings, our creativity, when we channel it instead of letting it just like float endlessly, the channeling of it, that creativity is really where magic happens.
I agree. I fully agree with that. Yeah. And it's funny that you say, we can't really have it all. It's a lie. It's really a lie. Like, why are we all believing that we can have it all? But you know what? Here's the other thing too. We actually don't want it all. I mean, like seriously, when we get everything, we're not meant to have. I just we can go into a whole other topic of that, but I think that's what living in a large space and designing large spaces versus living in a small space and designing small spaces. That's what I personally have experienced and my kids have experienced, and then I've walked clients through to learn how to experience is really it's going inward and just asking yourself, what are the things that I love and what are the things that I need and what are the excess that's just occupying space in my life physically and mentally, because clutter just does stuff to our brain. And it's really a beautiful thing of just stepping out of, we don't need to have it all, we just need to know what we want and what's important for us.
Yes, it's all about those values. Okay, so one of the reasons I wanted to make sure everyone knew your background. Oh, wait, before we get to Christmas, this is just more for me because it's super fun. Can you tell me about the HGTV show that you were on with Snooki?
Yes. Yeah. So, oh my goodness, that was so fun. So I did a 1 hour TV special in New York, and basically it was a competition style that a few other designers and myself went out there to design cabanas. So it was really small space. If you can imagine kind of like a enclosed pergola, because not everybody knows what cabanas, it's kind of tradition up there. But if you can imagine an enclosed pergola cut in half in front of the beach, basically it was like this club of everybody had their own little space to hang out in and take showers after the beach and stuff like that. So we were given a very small amount of time to redesign these spaces. And my challenge, I loved it because it was for a family. It was for a big family of five, and I had to basically make it like a lounge space for five people, couple and their kids, and it was so fun.
That is
So
so cool. I love that. I mean, hey, we were talking, you were saying 700 square feet. That's like huge compared to what you were working with in the cabana, but I'm sure that that was really cool to be able
yes,
to imagine, like, how do I get five people to be able to hang out, shower, and not trip over each other? I don't know. I just think the whole concept was so fun.
yeah.
But okay, so I wanted to talk to you about your background in small spaces because as we dive into the Christmas season and all the clutter that comes with it, I wanted to encourage people listening to realize that we're not having this conversation with these big houses in mind that can hold everything all at once, right? Like this is really going to be a helpful concept for everybody, but especially for those of us who just don't have the space for all the toys and all the stuff, and making sure that we're preparing our homes and our kids and our own hearts for a Christmas that doesn't end up overwhelming us instead of filling us with joy.
Yes. And I kind of feel like that's what ends up happening, right? We're
Right?
all like, let's get through the holidays, and it doesn't need to be like that. It shouldn't be.
I know this idea of let's get through the holidays, it's a little sad to me because I just think that we think, oh, there's so much stress involved, right? Like with the thinking of the gifts and the buying of the gifts and the wrapping of the gifts and the hiding of the gifts and then the aftermath of what to do with all of this stuff. So let's
Yes.
start with on a very practical level. What do you do to help prepare your home and your kids for the holiday season?
Yes. Okay. This is a favorite. This kind of goes back to even something that you can do outside of the holidays, but we'll focus on the holidays first. But so as the holidays near, and I'm going to share a lot of things. I'm not always great about all of them. Seasons of life can get you off course, but I'll share a lot of things that have helped me. So as Christmas season starts getting close, typically I like to start around October, and it's just whenever the thought pops into my head. But I like to just talk to the kids about making space in their room for toys. And the cool thing about it is that if you do this before Christmas, and the whole point is that, hey, Christmas is coming, we're going to be getting all new stuff, not just from, family, but like extended family and friends and all of that. And look at this room. There's no space for the new stuff. So how about, and if you have a number in mind, I did start out the beginning years telling the kids a number. How about you guys choose 15 toys to give away and attach a purpose to it? Attach something cool that the kids can be a part of, because sometimes kids don't want to part with toys. So it's kind of like it's like a two positive, like you're getting new toys. Let's make room in our life. Like we can't be holding on to all these things because we're not going to have enough room for the good new things that come in. And that normally gets them excited, but sometimes you can still have issues. So attach a purpose to it of either, if it's not around the holiday time yet, so October, do you have any friends that maybe going through a hard time that you want to gift some of your things to and bring some joy? We're doing that this year. We have a little friend that has had a hard year, and Penelope wants to give her some of her favorite things. And other years we've done, donation centers of places that help women and children coming out of abusive situations, and talk to the kids about that. And we have another friend who she just kind of has families in mind that have been through a hard time, and she goes home to home. So we've been just linking them to helping others gets them really excited to make room. And I mean, this year it was like completely, this has never happened, but Penelope, my youngest, she was like, I want to give all my toys. And I was like, hold on, baby girl, don't give them all away. But it's like they get excited about what's coming, and they get excited about helping others. And that way, when the holidays actually come, you're not overwhelmed with all the wrapping paper and all the things that already cannot be helped, but you're just walking through the house wanting to run away because of all this stuff. There's room.
Yes. Oh, I love that. And it's so true. Making it specific, I feel like, is so helpful for kids. Anders, the other day, even, we were driving under an underpass, and he said, and it was raining. He said, it's dry under here. And I said, yeah, actually, that's a lot of times why people who don't have homes tend to go under bridges. It's so they stay dry, and it feels a little safer for them. And then he, of course, was like, what do you mean people without homes? And it opened up this whole conversation, because he's like, well, why don't they stay in a hotel? Or like, why don't we just build them a house? And I'm talking him through, do you think they have money for a hotel? Or like, mommy and daddy, we aren't able to we don't know how to build a house, and we don't have money to build a whole house. And these are some really great questions, but what are some things we can do? So when mommy says we're going to donate some toys, this is what I mean, is to help people that don't have access to anything, and it really opened up these conversations. And so actually, since that because I thought I had already we think as parents that we've already talked to our kids, and sometimes we realize we haven't gotten specific enough. When I say we're going to give it to a kid who
Yeah.
needs it, they don't understand what that means. That's so abstract. A kid who needs it, well, I need it. I like it. I need it, you know? And so
Yeah.
to break it down and help them understand what it means to really need something and not be able to get it was such
Yeah.
an eye-opener for him, and that's really helped in our decluttering journey with him as well, especially getting ready for the holidays.
Yes.
So I love that so much. And so once your house is kind of getting cleared out starting in October, that's huge, right? Because the holidays are so busy that trying to like take everything to donation centers or whatever all in December is not the way to go. We want to be able to just, drink our hot cocoa and listen to some music and visit with family instead of being like, I have all this stuff in my trunk and what am I going to do? So once that's all kind of taken care of, as you start the buying process, do you have any boundaries you usually instill, for buying? Like there are a couple
Yeah.
of ones that I've heard of before, but I want to hear what you have to say first.
Yeah. So we have always done one boundary is the amount, the quantity. And this actually, we started even before the small space. This was just something we just decided as a family to cap the quantity that we in our internal small family on Christmas Day give to each other, and we capped it at 3. So and I have a few reasons for that. I think growing up, I didn't grow up that way. It was kind of like, you know, some Christmases it was one amount, and some other ones it was another, and it felt like as I became a teenager and I was able to get my own job and I was able to start really buying presents, there was such a sense of guilt that I had over the holidays that like I couldn't really gift the things that I wanted to give to others. And it almost felt like as each year passed, the idea of upping the year before, came into my mind. And it was almost like over time, Christmas became something completely different and that it shouldn't be. And I just thought, you know what, let's cap it at 3. This and so there is no one upping anything. Everybody knows what they're going to get every single year, and also we're all very intentional about the things that we really really want, because also there were some Christmases I would get like 20 gifts, but it was all nice, but it wasn't like what I really wanted kind of thing. So thought, this helps with the feeling in Christmas and keeping it what it really, just focused on what it really is about. And then it also just helps us be intentional about asking the things that we really, really want. But as far as boundaries and what they can ask for, I haven't really and ever set any boundaries like that. There have been when the kids have been little, and I have family members that I feel comfortable being very real with. I have kind of just asked that the kids don't get gifted big toys, but there's definitely been so many years if they want. I mean, we've done like the Power Wheels thing and all of that. Like if there's specific things that they want, I think it's important that a child feels heard and feels like they can voice what they really want. And then as parents, we want to give them that. But with 3, it's doable. So that's kind of the big boundary, is like the quantity that we set. And at the end of Christmas, that is just on Christmas Day, like when we open up, they're getting from grandparents, they're getting from aunts, from uncles, like they come out with these giant piles. So even though 3 sounds like a tiny amount, and that doesn't include stocking stuffers, which we'll talk about, they really come out with just an insane amount of presents at the end. So yeah, that's kind of our boundary.
No, I love it. I love a numerical boundary. We approach it the same way. We do 5. So, and this is for my next question too, because we do 3 from Santa,
Okay.
and we do 2 from parents. And even that I know is a lot because I have 3 kids. So that's 15 presents under the tree right now. That does not include family presents like we just mentioned. So it already kind of feels like a lot. I've been thinking about going down to 3, 2 from Santa, 1 from us. I think that makes a lot of sense while we have kids in the Santa age. When your kids were of the Santa age, I don't know if Penelope is still a Santa girl. Anders still is. They're about the same age. How do you handle Santa gifts versus mommy daddy gifts?
So this one we do a little bit different because I'm not originally from here, from America. I'm originally from Venezuela, so we have baby Jesus, which is super comical when I explain, baby Jesus comes down in a fireplace, and we didn't have fireplaces in Venezuela, so the whole story doesn't add up whatsoever, but that's culturally, that's how we grew up. So instead of Santa, it's baby Jesus or Jesus. And it's kind of the same concept as just, who we write it out, that it's from. But I haven't had to deal with that challenge because culturally it's just a little bit different of how we incorporate it all.
So does baby Jesus bring presents?
Baby Jesus brings present. It's literally this exact same concept, except it's a
baby Jesus. Wait, I'm
except
into
in
it.
Spanish. In Spanish, it's not literally a baby. It's el niño Jesús, so it's kid Jesus, I guess.
Wait, baby Jesus sounds better.
I know. Kid Jesus comes and sneaks into your house. I know. It's like, for us, it's so normal, but every time I've explained it, everyone's like, wait, what?
That's amazing. Okay, so you did 5 gifts, but you weren't so specific about like who they were from, like the 3 and the 2, or sorry, you did 3 gifts.
The 3, yeah. So it's like, I mean, yeah, because at the end, I think culturally it just kind of has worked out for us because at the end we just, we talk about Jesus and the meaning of Christmas and all of that for, our beliefs and what we believe in. But yeah, so it just kind of wraps it up. And then yeah, they know who it comes from, like who's given the gifts. And then I'm like, well, Jesus is the provider of it all too. So
hey, there's that.
So culturally it's just a little different. I can't speak on the Santa versus mommy and daddy. I'm sorry.
No, that's the same. It's the same kind of thing. You just made all of them come from baby Jesus instead of having one that says from mommy and daddy when they're little. I think that makes sense. A lot of parents who don't differentiate, I think that's pretty normal. They'll do everything from Santa, when the kids are of Santa age. But I don't know. I guess my mom must have done, we always just kind of incorporate things that were done for us. I'm pretty sure my mom did Santa and something for mommy and daddy. And so that's why it became something we differentiate in our family.
Yeah.
But I don't know how much it totally matters, except, also as the parent, I'm like, hey kid, I got you this. Like, mommy loves you. I actually bought you something. Like, It's not just Santa. So selfish of me.
No. I think, man, we do everything for our kids. We want them to know a little bit.
Yeah. I want some of that credit. Okay, so let's dive into stocking stuffers because you mentioned that for your 3 and also for our 5, we don't include stocking stuffers. But how do you handle that? Because stockings can be the worst.
How so?
Just like so much little like crud that doesn't matter. Just like I think as parents, it's a last minute thought, and we're like, oh, I'll just put candy in there, and I'll put this little tinkering toy that I found at Walmart, and you just kind of like throw a bunch of stuff in there that the kids end up never actually using, and they're not that excited about because it's kind of clutter. It's just thoughtless clutter. So how do we approach stockings without it just being clutter?
Yeah. Well, I think for me, the fact that there's only been 3 and it's a smaller number makes me think about stockings a little bit further, like a little bit, not such a last minute thing. Now, on the cultural note, the stocking was not something I grew up with. So it did take me a few years to do that. And I definitely did the last minute, have no clue, just stuff in there. But yeah, because it's 3, I try to get, as long as the kids give me their list, I try to get all the Christmas shopping done, sometimes even before Thanksgiving. Just order it all and have it and hide it away. And then it just makes me be more intentional about the stocking stuffers. And as far as that, I still keep it small. It's candy. It's their favorite candies typically. So now over time, I've been able to do that. Before everybody got the same. And then, just things like I had, like I was talking about the bunk beds, like my little Lego lover got specific type of Legos, or this one from Japan, or like just little things like that just having more time to think about individually. My teenager is all about the gift cards and he could care less about, the little stuff. So I think for me, having that boundary of 3 has made me more intentional and excited to almost like cheat the system. Like, okay, they're only getting 3, but I really want to get them this other thing. I'll put it as a stocking stuffer. If it was unlimited, I would definitely just cram it all in there in the
Right.
stockings.
It's a nice little bonus. I think that's so true. And you take the same approach I do, which is like choose something off their list still. We do one extra list toy in the stocking. That's just the smallest one on the list. So, for our 2-year-old, he's obsessed with trucks and cars, right? We'll get him a Hot Wheel or whatever in there. I forget what. JoJo last year got like a little camera that she wanted, that can print pictures,
Oh,
and that's just something small that's a legitimate gift in there.
yes.
I love the candy thought. I have a thought on candy. This is what I do in case this helps anybody. Our kids don't eat all of their Halloween candy because I don't know how they possibly could eat that much candy.
Do
So
save it.
we save it, and then what I do is similarly, I want the kids to feel like it's special, like Santa thought of them. So I actually sort it all out. I know that Anderson loves Twix. I know Joey loves, I don't know what it is this year, but let's say Kit Kat. And Warren likes Hershey bars. And we happen to live in a neighborhood that Halloween is just outrageous. But even when we didn't live here, it's always outrageous. They get so much candy. I'm like, this will last us until next Halloween if they eat this every night, which I'm not letting them have candy every night, people. So what we do for Halloween is we let them, and this will be perfect because this episode's coming out on Halloween. So, hey, parents, with all the candy that you just got tonight or this week, they can have a piece after dinner every night for a week. And then after that, on weekends, they can have a piece of candy. And then they definitely start forgetting about it because we'll make cookies one weekend and they have that as their dessert instead. And then the candy just kind of like, it's a slow fade and they never really remember it because we don't keep it where they can see it. It's not in the pantry where they can see. I mean, we hide the candy in our house. And
good for you.
so once that slow fade has happened, then I go in and I sort it out for Halloween into the 3 piles of their favorite, and that's what goes in their stocking. So it feels new to them. They're not like, oh, this is just like a Halloween candy. This is like their Kit Kats, or like this is their Reese's,
So smart.
We do that gift. We do the thing, and then I love consumables in stockings. I don't know if you do this too, but again, my kids are little, and so this is probably not as applicable for your current life, but we love temporary tattoos for bath time. Big fan of temporary tattoos. So things that naturally just aren't going to stick around forever. Stickers. Our kids love stickers. And we might do some bubbles, but only one thing of bubbles because bubbles get dumped half the time. So those could be a little cluttery. So just one thing of bubbles. And then this is the 4th thing we do. So these are my 4 stocking things because stockings are big. And I'm like, what do I put in here? So we have the one intentional gift, the candy, the consumable, and then something they need. So my mom always gave us new underwear and socks in our stockings growing up. And it was like a joke, especially once we were past the Santa phase. We were like, okay, underwear and socks again. Thanks, Mom. But like, something like that the kids actually need something new of. Maybe it's a new toothbrush. Maybe it is new socks or underwear. Maybe it's, I don't know, whatever they need, that can go in there too. And so those are kind of the four approaches of ways that we do stockings.
And I love the consumables. I had not heard that, but that's what I'm all about. I'm like, well, it brings fun that can fold into this or can just be discarded after.
Right? Like, I just don't want to be picking this. I don't want to be throwing this away next October, donating this. And this has just been, sitting in our house for a year. Like, that's the worst.
Yes.
So I love that. Stockings. Okay. So the next thing that we have to handle is on top of what we choose and the boundaries we have, maybe numerically. Oh, I wanted to say too, a boundary that I've heard in case anyone wants to do this is something you like, something you want, need, wear, and read. That's not something that I do, but I have friends that do it and they love it. So something they want, something they need, something they wear, and something they read. So if you want to cling onto that one, throwing it out there. Okay, so let's go into well-meaning family members who give your kids gifts. How do you handle the influx of gifts from grandparents, cousins, friends, aunts, uncles, all of that?
Yes, I think this is a hard question because we're talking about, it touches on relational topics and we all have different relationships. So the way that I like to go about it is if I feel comfortable enough, have close enough relationship with my family members that are wanting to give the kids gifts, then I go ahead and share our lifestyle, wish list, the concept of space, not just bombarding them with all the things. But then there are some that either they're far away, you just are getting to know, you haven't gotten to know them well. And I just feel like it's really important to emphasize the heart and the thought that someone has over you and your kids. So we have never been anybody that turns down gifts or, just says like, or even sets a lot of boundaries when the relationship is not there. But my parents have always felt super comfortable of just being like, we can't have this, and that. And it would be so much better if you just choose from their list. And this is what they want. When they're older, it makes sense that kids are going to ask what they want. But when they're little, when they're babies and toddlers, those are kind of, I feel like the ages where everybody gives you an insane amount of giant toys. You can get a giant thing for $20. So it's like, it's the time to spoil kids. You don't even have to spend a lot of money. So I do, now we've gotten into a groove where we create the Christmas list, the wish list, and I just share it with them. My parents and family members are kind of on the same trend of let's get all the shopping before Thanksgiving. So sometimes it's almost like, okay, if we want that gift to be from us, we got to buy it right now. It's almost like this competition of like who's going to get it. And that's been good. But of course they get an abundance of things from well-meaning extended family that we just say thank you so much, and they play with it for a little while. And I like to do a rotation system, a toy rotation system. So we haven't really had a lot of issues with abundance of toys, but yeah, that's kind of what we do.
Yeah, and it's so true. It's so relational. And I forget where I read this, but somebody said, my relationships are more important than my minimalism. And that's always stuck with me too, is that if it's going to cause a relationship to struggle to put that boundary on somebody, then just be gracious the best you can. And of course, I know that this is going to be challenging in different ways for different people because, I have heard of the people who have in-laws or someone who like actively tries to make them annoyed and give them stuff when they don't want it, or asks a year later, where's that toy that I gave Johnny? And like, I get it. Sometimes it can be extreme. I've kind of always experienced, luckily, my parents are very receptive to our wishes, and they're very, they just think about it themselves too. They're like,
Yeah.
what would I want or not want in my house, which I really, really appreciate. But I know that's not the case for everyone. Another side to this with families that I'm curious if this is something you do with baby Jesus as well. But I often think about other kids at school, for instance. Like if Anders asks for a more expensive gift, and we try not to do super expensive things, but let's say he wants, a Power Wheel. We'll do that. That was last year. We didn't want that to come from Santa because when he goes to school, another kid might be like, he got a Power Wheel and Santa just brought me a book, right? And we don't want that discrepancy there for the other children. And so anything that is kind of more expensive, I know my parents want to spoil the kids. So I tend to ask them specifically for those kinds of gifts. And so when the kids come out, they see a Power Wheel under the tree and they lose their mind. They're not looking at, they don't care that that's from grandparents instead of Santa. You know what I mean? They're just excited about the Power Wheel.
Yes.
And so we say, oh, look, this is Pop-Up and Gigi got this for you, and it's great. Everyone's excited. And then their little toy guitar came from Santa, that they had on their wish list too. So I think that's something to consider. Did you ever, I don't know, take that approach with what kinds of gifts come from who?
Not necessarily, but honestly, we just haven't. I think right now we're minus the Power Wheel season. For the longest time when we would really listen to what the kids wanted those years, it's always, I don't know if we just got lucky, but it's always been really inexpensive things. It's almost like they're happy with the small. And then as they got older, now my teenager, oh my gosh, I'm like, son, like I don't even shop shoes that are $500. What do you think? You want 3 of those. He's a shoe guy. So as they've gotten older, it almost clicked that I was like, I feel like doing the whole super expensive stuff, maybe it's more of like me trying to do that for my kids than even what my kids are asking for or wanting. So kind of let that go and just thought, what is it, like the number one, like Liam last year, he's like such a vintage kid. It's funny. This is my 8-year-old. He wanted he wanted an etch a sketch. His number one though was a paddle ball. You know, those like little, it was like $3 and he was losing his mind. And I thought, man, this is the Christmas that I have to take advantage of this. So, but typically we don't even do like really expensive gifts. We do more expensive gifts for birthdays. Kind of that reason, but it just feels like it just gets out of control. So if they're wanting, I mean, my all my kids' birthdays are right after Christmas, so it's a little back to back a little bit, but yeah, I think the thought, I mean, there's so many things going on in our world and so many different situations. So I think the thought of thinking of others with that is a really kind thing to do.
And I just love what you just added about our own expectations and putting those on the kids, because you're right. My kids will be like, I want a like a sword or something that costs $4, And in my head, I'm like, oh no, is he not going to have an amazing Christmas? Because these are all just like little dinky toys. And I'm like, wait, why am I thinking about me and my expectations for their Christmas instead of just actually listening to what they want? And kids are so simple. They are not maximalists. Like they just aren't.
No.
I mean, they love to hold, they cling on to things. They're like a little bit hoardy, but they're not maximalists, Like they don't need all that.
Yeah, it's like the toy. I keep thinking of the Toy Story, like the little girl who was she just wanted her Forky, and that was her favorite thing. And I mean, my kids have had that for so many things. So yeah, I kind of let that go, and it turned out to be that they want way less expensive things than I thought.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. I want to transition a little bit here for the sake of time because I could just talk to you all day about gifts too. I love hearing your input on all of it. Um, Decluttering Christmas to me goes beyond gifts. It's kind of back to what we talked about at the beginning of how the holidays can feel really overwhelming and busy. So I want to talk a bit about decluttering traditions. In your experience, how do you resist the urge to follow every trend, every tradition, every little thing that you see on Pinterest and Instagram and all the families doing?
Yes. Well, I feel like I learned the hard way because I fell into it. I thought, we're going to start this year, we're going to decorate super early, which I still do try to do that. And that's one that has stayed. And then it's almost like I scheduled out. And when I'm into something, I'm not into it halfway. I am all in every single day. Every day we're going to watch a Christmas movie, and we're going to start the season by baking cookies. But we're not just going to bake cookies. We're going to bake cookies while we decorate the Christmas tree, while we do the chocolate milk. I mean, it was like, it just kept growing. But when I was thinking about it in my head before experiencing it, I didn't realize, first of all, December is a normal month. There's school, there's work, there's life. And it's almost like in my mind, we just think about Christmas and it's so magical and beautiful and twinkling lights and yummy food that I think sometimes we just forget about the reality of life. So it wasn't until I experienced trying to do Christmas movies every night and trying to do the tree farm and the hot chocolate and the parties and all of this stuff, and just the overwhelming anxiety and exhaustion that I felt. And I thought, okay, what are the ones, again, just going back to you and your family and what you want, what are the ones that we enjoyed, and what are the things that we can actually do? I'm a big believer of just doing one thing. Like any kind of change you want to make, don't look at it the whole thing, just focus on one thing. And then once you get that one thing down, build on top of that. So our traditions are so simple. I actually say no a lot. We don't do a ton of outside stuff. And now we're to the point, and we have been for a few years, where we actually enjoy Christmas. but I had to just let it go. I was like, if we're going to do a cookie thing, I'm going to choose one. And sometimes there's been years that we just haven't been able to do it, and just have grace with yourself that there's seasons of seasons, and you can't even, get, if you don't get things done in certain seasons, it's okay. Another season's going to come and you'll be able to do it.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I remember one year, and sometimes those things that you end up having to not do, or you can't do it the way you envisioned, can turn into funny traditions themselves. This one
Yes.
year, we like did not think through making cookies for Santa, even though obviously that's a tradition. I shouldn't say obviously. For us, that's a tradition we like to do. And we didn't have any Christmas cookie cutters. We didn't have chocolate chip cookie dough. And so we were like, we only can make sugar cookies, but we don't have any like cookie cutters. We had space cookie cutters. So, they had planets and astronauts and the whole thing. And we're like, all right, Anders, you want to make Santa some space cookies? And he was like, yeah. And that was when he was 2. He is 5. And every year we make space cookies for Santa. He
I love
loves
that.
it.
Yes, I love that. And that's the whole point. That's the whole point of just the different traditions, is that, and he's going to grow up and he's going to get married, and we got to make the space cookies, and be like, wait, what? And this whole story is going to come. It's so sweet. We haven't done this every single year, but one year we really wanted to do the tree farm thing, and everybody had been posting about it the years before, and I was like, oh, I really want to do that, and it's going to be so gorgeous. And the weekend that we had within the schedule to do it, the tree farms weren't open yet. So we were like, well, this is the weekend that we have, and we really got to get this done. So, how are we going to do this? And we just decided to take an axe and go into like the forest and find ourselves a lopsided Charlie Brown little Christmas tree, and then just look throughout. We just looked throughout our house, and we were doing it with my dad, and just took different lamps, because it was such an ugly tree, and cut it with like a saw and made a little garland. And to this day, that year was the most special year of going outside of what everybody else was doing, not because we didn't want to, but because we couldn't. And I want to do it again. I want to go into a forest that's not meant to be, a Christmas tree forest, and just build family memories. I think that's where it's the most special. Like your space
Right.
cookies.
Because once again, a lot of it is our own expectations. It's not even the kids. As parents, we're like, I love the magic, and I want to make sure my kids have this magical time. And what feels the most magical to kids is that the quality time together, right?
Yes.
And like, you don't have to make the Instagram level Christmas cookies for the kids to think that that was the best time ever, making space cookies for Santa, and I just appreciate that or what's the word I'm looking for? Perspective. So very much, to remember that we're doing this to ourselves. Like, no one else is forcing us, and neither are our kids. Like, this is our choice.
It really is our choice. And I think there's so much freedom in just admitting that and seeing that it's just us. It's just saying, what do we actually want to do, and to stick to that.
Absolutely. Okay, I have other questions that I was going to ask you, but look at the time. Karla, this has just been so incredible to chat with you, and I think so practical. I think a lot of people are going to be like, oh, I'm glad I'm not alone in feeling this, and hopefully this can inspire people to know that Christmas can be a time that doesn't feel overwhelming. So I'm going to end with 2 questions that I ask everybody on the podcast. What is one area in your life that you are currently paring down, or you want to pare down?
Funny enough, toys. It's just been, it's been, I feel like clothing, and we have a good system. I will share this really quick, because I think so. This was a little bit of what I was talking earlier, and it's just been a rule of like, whatever items come into the house, before those items are put away, the same amount has to leave, the same amount or more. So if I go shopping for a dress, then before I put my own dress up, I don't keep store hangers. I only have a certain amount of hangers, and I have to go through and pick one thing out before I put it up. So I feel like clothing, it's been a pretty good system, but yeah, it's just kind of, it's funny, I think, with the toys and just different ages and all the kids, and all the seasons, just things can accumulate. So we just did a giant, massive purge, and then just going through. I think one tip that helped me was pretending that you're going to move. And if you were going to move and to go to another house, just look around, like go to your closet. Is there anything you wouldn't take to another house? And kind of purge. But it all boils down to time. And sometimes if these systems are not set in place, it can be quite time consuming to just carve a whole day to do this kind of stuff. So yeah, right now we're just focusing on all the toys because it's the season that we start doing it.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I didn't even really think about that. The fact that you do have 4 years between each kid, there's probably so much temptation to, I need to hold on to this maybe for the next kid. And none of them are really sharing toys. They're all in different stages. So it's not like a toy can go a long way between all the kids. For mine, I'm like,
yes,
everybody can play with the toy train. Anders is better at building it, but Warren loves playing with the magnet part of it. And JoJo, they all can kind of play with the same thing. That's a particular challenge that you are facing.
Yeah, for sure.
Right.
Only if things are in great shape, I'll keep them. But for the most part, we just rotate them out.
I think I'm going to have you come on again down the line because there's so many more topics we could cover here. Okay. And the last question I have is, what is something that you are looking forward to in your life right now?
Oh, that's a good one. It's like deep questions right now.
So let me give you some ideas because it can be as simple as like a show or a book that you want to sit down and read every night, or it can be an event, a holiday, the kids getting home from school, anything.
Yeah, well, actually, we just finished. I've been working on our backyard of just making it super like family friendly and hosting friendly as well. And I just have one more thing to do. But last night we just sat outside all as a family after dinner, and the kids were playing, and I was like, this is what we're going to do every single day. So I'm just looking forward right now with the weather. This is my favorite weather in the whole year, just fall. And I'm just looking forward to being outside and just slowly like winding down the day with the whole family outside. I'm really excited about that because it's been a project that I've been on for like a year. So looking forward to that.
Nice. Yes, to be able to enjoy the fruits of your labor. Okay, yes. Well, Karla, where can people follow you online?
So Instagram, Rock a Home, and then our website's Rock a Home Design. Find, projects. I actually talk a lot about small space toys, have ideas on that, clothing systems, and follow me on the blog for more ideas on these topics of kind of decluttering and small space friendly solutions.
Awesome. I'll make sure that all those links are in the show notes. And thank you for such an enlightening and fun conversation.
Oh my gosh, thank you for having me. You are a joy.
You just listened to an episode of Paring Down with me, Shannon Leyko. If you enjoyed the show, it would mean the world if you can leave a review wherever you listen and share this episode with a friend. Those reviews really are what keeps a podcast on its feet for the long haul, and I will read every single one with a huge smile on my face, so thank you ahead of time. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to hit subscribe. Also, be sure to follow along on Instagram at Paring Down Podcast, where I offer lots of tips and inspiration for paring down, along with what's new here on the podcast. Till next time.